Here's why Corlys Velaryon supported Rhaenyra over the Greens. Welcome to the channel. Subscribe if you love House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, and deep dives into Westerosi lore. Let's begin. The Sea Snake's decision. Opening visual montage. Corlys Velaryon on the deck of his ship, Rhaenyra walking through Dragonstone, and the Greens gathered in the Red Keep. In the deadly struggle for the Iron Throne, allegiances can decide the fate of kingdoms. When King Viserys died, the realm split into two factions, the Greens, backing Aegon II Targaryen, and the Blacks, backing Princess Rhaenyra. And in this dangerous game, one man's loyalty could tip the balance. Corlys Velaryon, Lord of the Tides, master of Driftmark, the legendary sea snake, was more than just the head of House Velaryon. He was the richest man in Westeros and commanded the greatest fleet the realm had ever seen. So when Corlys threw his support behind Rhaenyra, it wasn't just an alliance. It was a declaration of war. But why did he choose her over the Greens? Was it loyalty? Politics? Family pride? Or something far deeper? Today, we break down exactly why Corlys Velaryon sided with Rhaenyra and how his decision shaped the entire dance of the dragons. Corlys Velaryon, the sea snake. To understand his choice, we have to understand the man. Corlys Velaryon wasn't just any lord. Born into a proud Valyrian house with blood as old as House Targaryens, he rose to legendary status through daring voyages across the known world. His 9 great voyages brought him unthinkable wealth, spices, silks, and treasures from far-off lands. By the time he returned, Driftmark was richer than the Crownlands themselves. But Corlys wasn't a man who craved gold for its own sake. He craved legacy. He wanted House Velaryon to stand alongside the Targaryens in power, prestige, and history. The Velaryon-Targaryen bond. Wedding feast of Rhaenyra Velaryon and Rhaenyra. The Velaryons and Targaryens had always been close. Both houses of Valyrian descent, both dragon riders at different points in history. This bond became unshakable when Corlys married Princess Rhaenys Targaryen, the queen who never was. She had been a legitimate candidate for the Iron Throne, but was passed over in favor of Viserys. This decision burned a permanent mark on both Rhaenys and Corlys. They never forgot the slight, even if they served loyally afterward. Corlys and Rhaenys had 2 children, Lena and Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra married Princess Rhaenyra, tying the Velaryon bloodline directly to the royal succession. For Corlys, this wasn't just a marriage, it was an investment in the future. Rhaenys' claim and the shadow of injustice. Corlys' wife Rhaenys had once stood at the brink of becoming the first ruling queen of Westeros. But the Great Council of 101 AC chose Viserys over her, setting the precedent that women could be passed over from male heirs. This injustice lingered. Corlys saw it as proof that the realm's political powers would always sideline women's claims unless they were defended with strength. Supporting Rhaenyra was in part a way to right that old wrong, to make sure the crown finally recognized a woman's right to rule. The heir arrangement. Rhaenyra being named heir. When Viserys named Rhaenyra his heir, Corlys backed the decision. His son Rhaenyra's marriage to her meant their children would one day inherit both the Iron Throne and Driftmark. This arrangement was perfect for Corlys' ambitions. House Velaryon's blood would sit on the Iron Throne. Their name would be etched in a history alongside the dragons. But there was a problem, and his name was Aegon, the Green Threat. When Queen Alicent Hightower gave birth to a son, Aegon, the succession suddenly wasn't so clear. The Hightowers had the political machinery to push Aegon's claim over Rhaenyra's. Corlys recognized the threat early. He'd dealt with Hightowers before. They were subtle, calculating, and ambitious. If the Greens took power, Rhaenyra's children, his grandchildren, would be in danger. Supporting Rhaenyra wasn't just about principle. It was about protecting his bloodline from being erased. Blood ties and legitimacy. Whispers about Rhaenyra's children, Harwin Strong in the background. Of course, the question of Rhaenyra's children's legitimacy complicated things. Rumors swirled that they were fathered not by Rhaenyra Velaryon, but by Ser Harwin Strong. Many lords used these whispers to undermine Rhaenyra's claim. But Corlys stood firm. Why? Because even if the rumors were true, he publicly acknowledged them as Velaryon's. To deny them would weaken his own house's standing. Corlys was a master of optics. Public unity was worth more than truth in times of political war. The strategic value of Dragonstone. Narrator. When Viserys died and the Greens crowned Aegon II in King's Landing, Rhaenyra held Dragonstone. That alone wasn't enough, but with Driftmark's fleet, the Blacks could choke off King's Landing's ports, disrupt trade, and control Blackwater Bay. Corlys knew his fleet was the single greatest strategic asset in Westeros. By backing Rhaenyra, he made the Blacks a serious military threat. Without him, her claim might have died in its infancy. Corlys' grievances with the Greens. Corlys confronting Otto Hightower. Corlys also had personal grievances with the Greens. Otto Hightower, Alicent's father, had always been a political rival. Corlys saw him as a manipulator who placed his family above the realm. Aligning with the Greens meant placing House Velaryon under Hightower influence, a fate Corlys would never accept. Rhaenys' influence. Rhaenys herself played a critical role in Corlys' decision. She had every reason to resent the Hightowers for supporting Viserys over her decades earlier. Though she was cautious at first, favoring survival over immediate rebellion, Rhaenys ultimately stood by her husband in backing Rhaenyra. In their marriage, Corlys valued her counsel, and on this matter, their ambitions and resentments aligned. Legacy above all. Above all, Corlys wanted his house's name to endure. He'd built his fortune and fame on the sea, but fame fades. Thrones endure. By ensuring Rhaenyra's line ruled, he was ensuring House Velaryon would be remembered for centuries, not as mere lords of the tides, but as kin to kings and queens. The risk of choosing sides. It's important to note, supporting Rhaenyra was risky. If the Greens won, Corlys risked losing everything: titles, lands, even his life. But Corlys was no stranger to risk. His voyages had taken him to uncharted waters, where danger was constant. To him, the political sea was just another treacherous tide to navigate. The pact at Dragonstone. Rhaenyra's Black Council gathered at Dragonstone. When Corlys pledged his fleet to Rhaenyra at Dragonstone, it was more than a political alliance. It was a signal to the realm. The richest house in Westeros, with the mightiest navy, believed in her claim. It gave other houses the confidence to rally to her side. It transformed the Blacks from a hopeful faction into a true rival for the throne. Corlys' support would prove decisive in the early days of the war. Control of the seas gave Rhaenyra the upper hand in trade, supplies, and troop movements. Even after personal tragedies, such as the deaths of his children, Corlys stayed committed to the cause. His loyalty wasn't blind. It was calculated, anchored in years of planning. On a deeper level, Corlys' choice reflects a central theme in House of the Dragon. That politics is about more than crowns. It's about legacy, blood, and survival.